All right, guys, the day has come. We are going to crack open our first egg that we have been preserving using a technique called water glassing. And this is a traditional technique that we came across in our studies for preservation techniques from centuries ago. And it's actually purported to be one of the most the techniques with the best results over the longest amount of time, which is why we wanted to try it out. So it's just taking a calcium hydroxide solution and you submerge your fresh, unwashed, unrefrigerated eggs. Do not try this with a supermarket egg. You have to have access to basically chickens or friends with chickens. But you submerge those eggs in the solution and keep it in a dark room temperature place. And they're supposed to last for up to 2 years. So this is our 6-month mark. We're going to see what we've got here. So you can see that we put 3 eggs in this first solution way back in October of last year. So that's what we're actually going to crack open, one of those eggs. This is a second jar that we have going. It's a little bit younger. It's only about 3 months that those eggs have been in there. This solution is a little bit more clear because we actually mixed it up at a little bit lower concentration. I think this is probably a better long-term solution. You'll notice we do have lids on the containers. This is to prevent evaporation. That's really important. So yeah, we're just going to crack one open, see what it's like. I have a fresh egg. So we can compare it to a fresh egg. We're going to cook them both up and see how they taste. So let me do my fresh egg first. So you'll see, oh, I broke the yolk, but that's okay. Nice white, nice yolk, typical fresh chicken egg. All right, guys.
That's just a big yolk.
Yeah.
It's not broken.
Oh.
It's just a really big yolk.
All right, so I don't know. This is the first time I've opened the container since we sealed them up. So I'm going to rinse this solution off the outside of the egg. The calcium hydroxide, it does change the pH. Like, this is why this technique works, is it's preventing bacterial growth, essentially. The eggs already have a protective membrane on them when they're laid, and so that's why you have to use fresh, unrefrigerated, unwashed eggs, is because you need that intact membrane on there, and it just keeps that as a sealed environment. Okay, so I don't smell anything off at this point. Okay, oh, wow. Look at that. It doesn't smell at all. I don't smell anything. I can't believe this. This is awesome. It looks, it's our fresh egg on the top. Our water glassed egg on the bottom. I see a little bit of the whites there kind of around the yolk. It looks like it might have thickened up a little bit. So we'll see when we cook it if that makes a difference, if that's an artifact of the preservation technique or just something that was happening in this particular egg. And it has no odor to it at all. So we're going to see how this goes when we cook these up. And then we're going to taste them. This is exciting. Okay. We might switch off. Did you want to do the cooking, Chris?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
So something that's really exciting about this whole preservation method is that we can now have eggs during the off season. So when your chickens start producing less eggs, the whole thought behind this preservation technique was that the chickens' eggs, they didn't used to come washed back in the historical time period that we teach historical foodways. And so they needed a way to have chicken eggs throughout the entire season to get them through the winter so that they could get to a point where the chickens are producing eggs again in the springtime when it starts to warm up. And so one of the cool things about this method is that these have been in the preservation liquid, the water glassing liquid, for 6 full months. We put these back in October 3rd of 2019, and now it's April 5th, 2020. And so we're able to use this egg, which is incredibly fresh looking. It doesn't look anything different than the egg that we just cracked. Now, you'll notice that our eggs are just sitting in a bowl. It's a beautiful, just handmade vessel that we got. That's a pie plate, actually, but it's an egg vessel right now. We got these from a friend of ours, and these are fresh, right out of the chicken, unwashed eggs, and we've had them for about a month already. And so, I mean, they're perfectly fresh, just sitting on the countertop. No need for washing them. Just make sure they're clean of debris from the chicken. And so now we've got our pan nice and warm. I'm going to add just a touch of oil to this. It's kind of cool this morning. That's why my coconut oil is still solid. Do you want me to cook one first and then the other?
Yeah, I think so. Just
okay. I'm going to get a matching plate then.
Oh, right. Orange and blue.
Yep.
Good idea.
So, talk about some of the other preservation methods.
So, some of the others that I've read about or actually seen from other historical interpreters was having to do with moisture levels and pH levels, so limiting the bacteria that can grow. So one is keeping the eggs covered in ash from your fire. Oh, here we go.
No, you're good. I got it. Okay.
And so again, it's changing the pH of the environment, it's inhibiting bacterial growth, keeping it in ash. But again, what I've read is that has a relatively low failure rate, but a failure rate nonetheless of probably like 20 to 30% of the eggs that you pull out go bad. Another one that I've heard about is sawdust, which would also have been very easy to come by. And again, it's just keeping those moisture levels and bacteria levels kind of at a good sweet spot. Again, that one might have had more about 50% failure rate. The water glassing, so the technique we've used with the calcium hydroxide, is closer to 100%, which is incredible. And the eggs we're testing, or the egg we're testing today at the 6-month mark, would have been plenty of time to preserve eggs between the chickens stopping laying and then starting again in the spring. So I'm encouraged about how well the egg looked, at least from cracking it. We're going to see once we taste them.
All right, this is came from the blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So which egg was that?
This is the fresh egg.
That you just cooked.
It.
Okay.
So I matched it.
Great. So here's our water glassed egg. Let's see what we get. Oh, it's good. Cooking up the same, right?
Yep. There's no off smell or anything.
No. Big, beautiful yolk. That looks
It did have a bit more spread to it.
Yeah.
But it could also just been that it was a much larger egg.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. I think you'll have natural variabilities. It's just knowing if it's attributed to the water glassing or not.
I'm a weird person. I don't like sunny side up, so I'm actually going to crack the yolk. Again, I mean, you can see it's cooking up just fine. I have to grab these so the pan gets hot. But I mean, it's just sliding around in there.
Smells like a regular egg.
Yeah, everything about it looks fine. Just gotta try and get it where I can flip this through the thing. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a normal egg. I'm a little frightened to taste it, if I'm being honest. I mean, it has been sitting there for 6 full months. And so, yeah, some of the other preservation techniques that we have taught or even talked about over at Brattonsville, where we're historic interpreters, where we teach historic foodways from the 18th and 19th centuries.
We're volunteers, sir.
We're volunteers. We just volunteer our time. We love historic foodways, and so we're teaching that. We've talked about packing them in salt, but that tends to desiccate the inside of the egg and make it unusable. We've talked about pickling. We've pickled eggs before, but that makes it unusable to, if you need to make a cake or anything. We have talked about packing in sawdust. We've talked about packing in ashes, which have a high pH. Which works relatively well, but it tends to give the egg a slightly off flavor. We have talked about water glassing, and we did a demonstration on that. And what else have we talked about?
I think that's mostly it.
Yeah, packing them in dirt.
Yeah.
And so...
Okay.
Okay, so the moment of truth. Let me grab a knife. Let me grab a fork real quick. I guess I'm going to be the guinea pig.
Oh, I'm going to taste them.
Okay.
You have a sharper palate than I do, though, so you would be able to tell if there were very small off flavors. Yeah. So that's a fresh egg.
We know this one's going to
should taste normal.
If I can get a fork of egg. Okay, we're just going to pick it up with my fingers.
Okay. So tastes like an egg.
Delicious. It's an egg. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little freaked out about this.
Okay, here we go.
It smells like a delicious egg.
Yeah, taste the yolk too.
The white, there's no distinction whatsoever.
Wow.
I couldn't tell you which one was which.
Wow, that's
Alright,
crazy.
So we're gonna taste the yolk now.
Okay.
Look at these yolks, man.
Oh, I know. They're beautiful.
Look at that thing.
Okay.
Tastes like a
Regular
delicious
egg. Here's the preserved egg.
There's seriously no difference. I can't taste a single difference. So
Incredible.
6-month-old egg. Water glassing technique. So when the stuff hits the fan, oh wait, it already has. If you have access to fresh chicken eggs, this is the way to go. And Jen's gonna tell you real quick while she tastes about how to go about doing this, like what the solution actually is.
Oh, like the amount? I actually don't recall off the top of my head, but like I said, this first batch we mixed up, I think that was too strong. I don't think you even need to use that. I think you can do a lighter solution and it's still gonna preserve them. Probably, a tablespoon or two per quart of water.
Okay. It's pretty straightforward. I mean,
yep. And
we're not talking rocket science back in that era.
No, and you just stir it around to just start it to make a dissolved solution, and then you just put your eggs in there. And the other thing that I've heard, we have kept ours separate because we're tracking the time on them, but I have seen other folks using this technique, and they just fill a bucket with solution and continue to add eggs when they have a surplus.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if they're mixed in ages in a single vessel, they're still usable. So yeah, this is really, really cool, I think.
One of my favorite things is so actually if you look at the jar, this is perfectly sealed. There's been no evaporation because it's sealed. We're using this big plastic container from Sam's, and you can see where the water line. So it's actually gotten a higher concentration in here.
Wow.
Something else that's really cool that you can use is a big old-fashioned crock. And if you find one with a lid, you're super lucky. And if you find one with a crack, let me know. I'll teach you how to fix that. In here we actually have our homemade miso paste, which the byproduct of that is tamari. And we can teach you how to make that too.
I just ate those eggs You couldn't have told me that egg was anything less than fresh.
So, all of our friends at Brattonsville, hey, it works. We love you. We miss you. We can't wait to be back.